Hi folks, Toad here with Visordown.com and welcome to a wet, windy and rather wild Tiverton in Devon, where we've been riding Honda's new CRF1100L Africa Twin. So we've been riding both versions of the Africa Twin over 2 days. The main bike that I rode on the road yesterday, as I was getting down to Tiverton, was this bike that you can see behind me here, which is the CRF1100L. I had the DCT version, and I'll come on to that in a minute. And then off-road, I've primarily been riding the black and red bike that you've seen in the video footage of me riding off-road earlier on. And that's purely just because the size of the thing and the extra weight of the DCT package and the Adventure Sport just makes it a little bit harder to manage off-road. So just going to talk about the review. It's not going to be a normal review for us because we've already ridden both versions of the Africa Twin at the launch in Sardinia. We sent Harry off for that one. But this is more of a proper road test of the bike, using it in all of the ways that it's meant to be ridden. So I've been commuting on it, I've been just blasting around B roads on it, I've toured down to Devon on it, and we've been riding off-road. So what do I think to the CRF1100, the new Africa Twin? It was a really good test of Honda to send me the DCT version, because I've ridden quite a few bikes that have got DCT in the past and it never really gelled with me. I never really found it to be as intuitive or as selecting the right gear at the right time as I wanted it to. The latest version of the DCT that's in this bike is the best DCT system that I've ridden. It is just on the cusp of being as good as my left hand and my left foot in terms of selecting the right gear for any particular corner. You can stick it in a manual mode where you can flip through the gears on the handlebar in a sort of Tiptronic sort of form, and that's good, but then you have to just remember that you are the person manually changing gear, and you're not doing it with your hand and your foot, you're doing it just solely with your hands. Touring down here, the main thing that I was so surprised about was the MPG that the DCT will return. You've got two riding modes effectively. You've got D, which is kind of just an automatic, and it changes gear very, very early, and by the end of your street, 50 meters, you'll be in 6th gear and the bike will be ticking over. And what it means is you just don't use any fuel. I mean, I did the run down here on a tank of fuel, and I pretty happily get back up to Coventry on that same tank of fuel, which is around about 136 miles, 140 miles here, 140 miles back. So it's got proper long legs, this thing, and it's all kind of thanks to that DCT, because it's changing gear so early. It's not the most inspiring thing to ride when it does that, because it kind of all feels like it's just chugging and it's really, really low down in the rev range all the time. But it pays dividends in terms of mileage. Once you get on a twisty road, you can flick it into sport mode as well, and it will hold on to the gears longer and it will kick down earlier if you open the throttle, and you can always override it with the buttons on the left-hand handlebar. But for me, I don't know, I just still like a clutch, I still like a gear lever, and while I've still got decent use of my left hand and my left foot, I don't know if there's a place for DCT gearboxes in my life. Of the two bikes that I've ridden, I don't know, Honda probably won't like me for saying this, but I actually prefer the standard Africa Twin, either DCT or manual, not the Adventure Sport version. But that is purely down to the fact that I'm a little bit of a midget. I'm 12 stone, I'm 5'7", and it's just a much easier bike to manually handle and to manage on the road, and it just feels a lot more rideable to me. It feels a lot more like an off-road machine that I would normally ride, like a CRF250 or a 450 or even a trials bike, because it's lighter, it's smaller, and it's just that little bit easier to manage. Another thing that I want to talk about in this review is the Honda Adventure Centre, which is run by Dave Thorpe and his pals down in Tiverton. I've done a lot of Adventure Centre riding where manufacturers have these things set up, and I've got to say this is probably the best setup that I've been to in terms of the instructors, and also in terms of the way that they grade it and the way that they start you off, and they work you up slowly and figure out what sort of potential that you've got. And they've got a really, really keen eye. I mean, Dave's like a 3-time champion enduro and motocross, and an absolute god on 2 wheels, and he can just spot straight away where your level is and where you need to be and where you need to improve. Really, that's the biggest thing that I can say, is that my riding from riding this morning has come on leaps and bounds. I was always quite scared of technical sections and sections where it's more about the fine control of the motorcycle. I love sliding a bike up a dirty path and getting the back end stepping out. That doesn't really take any intelligence or skill. It just takes you to hold the throttle open and turn the handlebars a little bit. So that technical side of the riding off-road is where I really feel that I've come on more than I've ever come on when I've been receiving training from any other people on a launch or you know, an off-road adventure centre such as this from another manufacturer. It's a proper pucker place. And if you're the kind of person that you do ride your bike off-road, or you want to experience riding an adventure bike off-road, this is such a good place to come in terms of the setup, the training, the tutors, and also the bikes. And the actual facility that they have here is just an endless playground of all different dirt tracks that are suitable for all different sort of levels of rider and abilities of rider. So honestly, if you want to experience riding a big adventure bike off-road and you've never done it before, this is probably the best place that you could come. Get yourself over to the Honda Adventure Centre website, check it out, and there'll be full reviews of the bike and the Adventure Centre coming up on Visordown.com. Thanks very much, folks.